Hello, everyone, and my name is Bob Schwartz. With me today is Drew Kale. This is the boardroom, and on the telephone we have Keith Ammann. Keith is on the show today because he authored a FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions list, on German games. And I was talking to Drew on the way out here, and we looked at ourselves and said, you know, he writes this, and he's trying to define German games and the type of games these are, but you get nothing but grief. People are writing you messages on news groups and everything. If you had this to do all over again, would you have done it?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's mostly just one guy giving me grief anyway. He wants to grind his axe about German games being light on theme. And he has a point to a certain extent. I don't know if I would consider it quite the extreme trait that he does or quite the liability that he does. It's just one aspect of a genre of very enjoyable, playable games that unfortunately not a lot of people know about yet.
Well, let's jump right in then. What characterizes these as, and I know people call them this, and I'm not sure I like the title, not because of the name itself, but I don't think it's really descriptive as much as I'd like. But
well, it's semi-descriptive. I think the name originates with the fact that so many of these games have come to us from Germany. About 4 or 5 years ago, Mayfair Games started importing a large number of board games from Germany that were aimed at sort of a family-to-adult market. In other words, they were easy enough that young people could play, interesting enough and strategic enough that adults could continue to enjoy them. And they were a big hit. And as they gained in popularity, some people left Mayfair to form a company called Rio Grande Games, which now is in the exclusive business of acquiring rights to republish these games in English. And the vast majority of them do come from Germany. Games Magazine, in its Games 100, its holiday buying guide that it puts out every year, categorizes this genre of game as family strategy, and I think that's about as good a description of it as anybody's going to come up with.
Okay, so what? Now we've kind of determined what these type of games are and where they come from and so forth, but really, how are they different than the average game? What mechanisms or what is different about these than games that have been out in America for years and years and years?
Well, first of all, you have to decide what you're talking about when you refer to the average game. I think what the mass market considers the average game is what they find on the right-hand wall at Toys R Us, which is almost entirely dominated by offerings from Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers, now subsumed under the Hasbro company, that have been around for years and years and years, and everyone grew up with and everyone knows. And by and large, they are all targeted at children. They are they tend to be fairly simplistic, not involve a lot of strategy. They tend to be variations on roll the dice and move your piece around the board. Then you have the more adult-oriented parlor games, such as Taboos, Categories, Pictionary, Trivial Pursuit. You also have the quote-unquote average hobby game, which is another animal entirely. Those tend to be very strategic in nature, also very niche market oriented. They're appealing to a very specific, narrow market. This is a very loyal market, and businesses can do a great service by continuing to cater to it, but it is a narrow market. The German games, the family strategy games, really walk a middle road between all of these things. They are easy enough for young people to play. Generally, they carry age recommendations of 10 and up or 12 and up, but oftentimes they're easy enough for younger children to pick up, even if they don't grasp the finer points of the strategy right away. They're challenging enough to keep adults interested. They're invariably very, very attractively produced, very high-quality components. And at the same time, they carry enough variety and enough strategic depth to keep hobby gamers interested, or at least a lot of hobby gamers. Some people are a little down on them, considering them lightweight. These tend to be the people who are accustomed to the unending battle of 1,000 maleficent chits. But I think by and large these games have a very broad and general appeal and can be played on a lot of different levels.
Well, Drew, you had a question you wanted to go to.
Oh, which one would be a good starter? Like which game? What should I get first to try out these German games?
Being a rookie.
Yeah, well,
jumping right in there.
When I first discovered these at the Origins Game Expo in 1995, and this is almost certainly the time when a lot of other people first discovered them too, everyone immediately seized on Settlers of Catan as it's become sort of the gateway drug to German games. It's attractive, just like all of them. It's pretty simple to pick up. You've got these nice little colorful components. You've got a trading element that keeps people involved even when it's not their turn. You've got a resource production mechanism that keeps people involved when it's not their turn, and it's very, very popular. It's almost always number 1 or number 2 on the Internet Games Top 100 list, and it's just very accessible. One of the 5 resources that you can produce and trade for in the game are sheep, which is one of the great examples of that silly German sense of humor that runs like a thread through all of these games. So you get people, they get their sheep production and all start going ba ba ba. When you're, it's like when you're playing Junta and you all talk in the cheesy Banana Republic accent. It's the same thing. It gives you a little chance just to loosen up. And
I hadn't heard that before.
So Settlers of Catan is very popular. Another one that I'm very fond of right now is Torres, which is a little bit more abstract, but also I think a terrific introduction.
I like the theme. I don't know. To me, it even held up. The more I play it, the more I like it. I agree with you. Let's throw a few more at us, because we've, of course, talked about Tikal on the show and done a show on that. What other ones do you like personally?
Personally, I like Tigris and Euphrates.
Brand new from Mayfair.
Yes, it's been previously available in a German edition, but has just come out in the English. I consider Robo Rally to fall within the German games category, even though it was designed by an American, Richard Garfield, who's better known for Magic the Gathering. I think it has a lot of the same flavor and a lot of the same advantages, a lot of the same good qualities that German games have. I enjoy Scotland Yard. I enjoy Löwenherz, which is German for Lionheart, which is not to be confused with the Hasbro game Lionheart, which I think has got to be one of the cheapest produced games I have ever seen, and a really stark contrast to the overall manufacturing quality of German games, which is invariably off the charts.
I couldn't agree more.
I recently discovered Medici, which I had for a while, but had only recently gotten to play, and I really enjoyed that. Modern Art is good, and Acquire, again, it was invented by an American, but it shares a lot of the same aspects that German games have. So I think it could definitely be considered a family strategy game.
Drew and I have been playing that a lot lately.
I just learned it recently, and I'm hooked. It's a wonderful, wonderful game.
Okay, so what we have here is German games break down the way they are because they're easy to learn. They play quickly.
They're not all easy to learn. They can be a little involved. Tigris and Euphrates, for example, has some unusual and somewhat counterintuitive methods of resolving conflicts. But the funny thing about Tigris and Euphrates, at least, is once you've finally memorized those and sort of internalized them, and you're not thinking about them anymore, you're just doing them, the game does start to move very quickly and become a lot easier to grasp.
Well, we are running out of time, if I am correct, and I would like to say that we have just scratched the surface of the work Keith did on this FAQ. Yeah. I mean, it is chock full of great stuff. If you're not familiar with what these games are, I urge you to take a look at this. And if you want his address, I don't know if Keith, can you remember it on the internet?
Yep.
Do you know it?
The address for the FAQ is www.interact.com/squiggle GEENIUS/German.html.
Okay, and if you didn't get that, just write us an email, and I'd be glad to send you the address of this. A lot of people have been doing that lately. I don't mind it one bit. In fact, I enjoy hearing from you. Also, any suggestions you have for future shows or games that you would like to see us talk about, even subjects, feel free to hit that button on the bottom of the page. Send us an email. Keith, thanks a lot. I wish we had more time.
Thank you.
But I think people got at least a flavor of what's going on here, and if they want the full thing, like I said, drop us a line or tune in. You can just play that replay button and get his address very easily. I think you'll find it well worth your time. Again, thank you, Keith, for appearing. My name is Bob Schwartz.
And I'm Drew Kale.
Good night, everyone, and take care.